Hi, it's Chad Costi Show. Welcome back. I hope you guys been following me for a minute. I want you guys to focus in on today's show. It's going to be a very awesome topic. We're talking about transitioning. A lot of people going through COVID, post-COVID, people going through life changes, people going through relationships, they're going through new careers or starting your own business. Today, we're going to dive in right into about your transitioning, about your journey in life and where it means to you right now. So, all right, welcome back here, guys. We're going to be talking about today about post-COVID transitioning. A lot of people don't understand about transitioning. People going through a dark place in their life right now, mentally, physically, and going through a career change. And we want to dive in that because I'm actually going through the same experience myself. So I brought my team with me, the same team with me last week, Chandra Mercer, and I have Anthony over here to your left. And we're going to just have an open discussion about transitioning your life into where you're about to become. And we're all going through similar issues, just slightly different, but we're going to dive right into it because I feel like you guys are going through the same exact issue that we're probably going through. So, Anthony, I want to start with you first. Do you feel like you're going through a transition in your life period right now after COVID with a lot of changes going on in your life? Do you feel like have that impact your decision or your career or your relationships in life right now?
Yeah, I mean, I when they were talking about COVID, it was in March, and I'll never forget because my dad, my stepmom, they were transitioning to, you know, a different lifestyle change down to Atlanta, and I wanted to be more present with them. So I didn't even know how serious this was going to be. Like I didn't think it was like pandemic serious. I just thought that, with team of researchers, with the World Health Organization and our government, like this was going to be like contained. It wasn't going to get to this particular level. And when I left my job, I didn't, and I was training that person. And then when I went to Atlanta and then this stuff just started to escalate, it was just beyond what I could experience. I mean, we read about pandemics in the past, but this was definitely, it just kept growing worse and worse and worse. And people were losing their lives and, you know, companies were shutting down. It's a whole different lifestyle. And for me, it got to the point because during my job search, it was like, no, we not hiring. We letting people go. Like people are losing their jobs left and right. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? Because I had, cash reserves. I had everything in place to not experience this. You save up for a rainy day, but do people save up for a pandemic and how that affects things politically, how it affects the supply system, like everything. This affects everybody's getting touched. And so for me, it was like, whoa, this was like everybody. I mean, to me, it was like playing a waiting game. You couldn't even be on the offense with this.
Right.
This was something that just jumped in your lap and it changes everything.
Well, I know for me personally, from a business owner standpoint, I had to deal with so many challenges from getting supplies and product. Have a hiring problem. I think a lot of business owners can relate. No, nobody really wants to work at this point in time. I mean, I'm seeing like signs as I drive down the street, hiring signs like they're begging for people to come to work. Anybody,
Mhm.
anybody. I was even getting the bottom feeders of the bottom feeders to come to work because I couldn't get any quality workers. Actually, I had to close down one of my companies because I just couldn't find the staff, quality staff, and that became a struggle and a challenge for a business owner. And I'm sure if you guys are business owner, you can definitely relate. And so that became a number one struggle for me. As far as COVID is concerned, I mean, being the fact that so many people have lost their jobs and lost their family members and been displaced in life, I felt like I was going through a journey by myself. And I'm always feel like I'm always by myself. But at the end of the day, it came to a point that I felt like I was in darkness, traveling through life, trying to figure things out. I was 21 years old all over again,
Mhm.
trying to figure out what is the next step. How do you move through COVID? How do you readjust? How you replan and regroup and mobilize to become more successful and to streamline and success in this kind of economy, right? Not saying this economy bad because people are making millions in this economy on a downslope. But there's some people that have not prepared, like you just said, that's not have the finances to be able to do what they want to do, haven't been able to start their own businesses, not just struggling from check to check. And I think a lot of reasons why we feel a lot of violence right now, because I'm seeing the news every day, the violence has increased by 1,000%, easily, 1,000%. Every day I turn the news is random killings. I'm like, why is this happening? And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? People mental is not there. People in survival mode. People are trying to do what they can to make ends meet at any means necessary, because they don't have the government support, even though that a lot of businesses and small businesses are getting funded from PPP and the SBA loans. But there's a lot of people, have not even got that opportunity, or unemployment, and certain things and et cetera. So I really want to come and talk about this transitioning stage, because people are starting new businesses, people are starting new careers, people that's older that probably was planning to retire is not being able to retire. How do you pick up the pieces? How do you move forward? I want to ask you, Chandra, what is your experience through COVID as far as transitioning right now in this stage in life as a woman?
Well, so for me, COVID, I was already going through a transition in my relationship, right? I was beginning the process of a divorce prior to COVID happening. So that was kind of in the midst or coming to an end. And I actually was going through a job transition as well, because we had a joint business together. So that was dissolving. So when COVID hit, I was like, man, I need to find a new job. And now COVID hits. And so it was a struggle. I got down on myself, because I feel like in any other climate, I'm very hireable. But during COVID, I just kept rejection after rejection. You can't go interview people anymore. So now you're getting all these electronic rejections. Me and about 1,000 other people have resumes in. What's going to make mine stand out, especially when all we can do is read the resumes right now. So that was a struggle for me. So I actually started to get really down on myself. And so one of the things that I did, I said, I got to channel this negative energy somehow. So I went and got my MBA.
Okay.
I had extra time.
During COVID?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I got my MBA during COVID, because I just decided I've got time that I never, ever had before, for one. So why not? Right? I have this extra time. I'm going to get this MBA. I'm going to direct my attention somewhere else. That's what really helped me through COVID, because also I have children. And let me just tell you, I love my children.
How many kids you have?
3.
Good gosh.
But
Tribe of Judah.
But being at home with my kids during COVID was great, because I do feel like we got to reconnect, right?
Yeah.
Because your kids go to school so long during the day, you really don't have that much time with them throughout the school year.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to reconnect. We got to do fun stuff, and got to tap into their personalities again and encourage them, because it was stressful for them as well at a very critical age. And then now I'm a teacher for all 3 of them at 3 different age levels. I have to teach 3 different grades.
How's that been? How's that been, that process?
That was rough. That was hard. It was hard, because you just take it for granted that you send them to school every day. And God bless teachers, okay?
God bless
teachers. They work hard. And so, you send them to school every day, and I'm involved with their schoolwork at home and things like that. But it's very different when you all of a sudden are homeschooling 3 children. And then actually I began to see it as a blessing that I wasn't working all day long, because now I'm interacting with my children more. I'm able to be available. I don't know how parents did it, full-time working and having to teach their kids. So it was a very stressful situation for me. Huge transition in all aspects of my life. And there were days when I didn't really know how it was going to end up or how it was going to work out, but it all did, but I think part of it was because I kept myself as busy as I possibly could on positive things.
So what would you say as a single mother, raising 3 kids, going through the transition of COVID, what would you say the biggest struggle? Was it Your personal life was the kids. What exactly would you can you reflect back and say was your biggest struggle?
I would say the biggest struggle for me was, for one, it was just, sometimes as a mom, as a parent, you have to have a moment like alone, but there's nowhere to go in your house when you have three kids and, they're all freaking out and they're bored and I heard I'm bored, I don't know how many times. And so I just we try to come up with fun activities and things like that just to just try to keep my mind busy. And also, I have a core group of friends that I've had
Mm,
most of my life.
mm,
We checked on each other, and that was critical.
mhm.
That was critical for us to check on each other. We had group calls, video calls, birthday calls. We got together the best way we could, and I think that was good. We had to check on each other.
Mm.
So,
What about you, Anthony? What was your hardest struggle during COVID?
I think I was definitely more shocked, and like her, I started so I was like, man, you got to start doing, like, you got to first, your first priority is employment. And when, because with the HR background, and one of my mentors was like, listen, because he was a VP, and he was like, no, they're restructuring, like no one's really hiring, they're restructuring their departments, and they're just laying off a lot of people. And fortunately, he has been like a VP in healthcare, so of course you always need healthcare workers. And so they
Mhm.
weren't they but even though they were didn't want to really report to work because they didn't want to jeopardize themselves as being on the front line, that was the struggle of them having being overloaded with a demand, knowing that the pool at that particular time for that particular arena was even short. So I was applying, Emory, like a lot of the health systems, and I was having, but I was like, man, I'm educated, I'm experienced, and they were just like, nope, nope. So then I was talking to my mentor about, starting our own little LLC. So I had started, an LLC. I had never started one. I got all the paperwork together, and then, all of us, and it's like, now you have to get some clients. And it's just like, okay, you're in a new market. You're like, well, man, what can I do? And like I said, luckily, when I came back to Houston to see a couple of doctors that I needed to see, my previous employer was like, hey, we need some help. And that's what like brought me here to be able to survive through this pandemic, in addition to, having cash reserves. And it's a whole different ball game out here now. But when I was in Atlanta, I was volunteering. So during that political process, I was volunteering for the Fulton County Democrats, and I was just literally going out. And then I was also meeting constituents in the Fairburn area, because they were like, well, hey, after we do this, it's like you learn a lot of dynamics about the political process, and that'll keep you busy, especially when you volunteer. So you try to volunteer so that you don't feel like you're just being idled. As and then as far as your mental health, it could, you have your dark moments where you inside the room by yourself,
Right.
and you like, God, I don't know if I could do this.
Mm.
And my mom is, she'll call me like regularly 2 or 3 times a week, and we'll talk. I mean, we have a really good relationship, and she'll, give me different Bible verses. She'll give me different experiences. And then sometimes me, I just, I get off the phone and I feel good for a moment. Then I just be like, because sometimes as a man, you design a little bit differently as wanting to be a provider, and always through different challenges that you're invincible.
Mhm.
And I think COVID made you vulnerable.
Mm.
absolutely.
And that's the reality of it. And then, so unless you are comfortable being vulnerable,
Mm.
it's even tougher. At least for me, it was even tougher to go through, as a man.
Right.
So, and it's still here. And so it's just like now
It's not in Texas.
right.
It
It's
doesn't
just,
seem like it.
nah, I mean, it's outside, but it's just, and I think that's for me, it's like, we had to begin to now, because now that we've gotten more information and the ability to try to protect ourselves, we can try to now move forward. But we have to move forward as within neighborhoods, and neighborhoods to communities and communities to cities and cities to across the country, because in America, it's like, I hate to say this, but we are so spoiled that sometimes we have so many rights. We don't want to, we have so many rights. We don't want to do the right thing. And we know literally what it will take to really contain this, but are we willing to all sacrifice it to go back to even a new normal that we can regulate, and we know it's not going to get out of control, where we don't have to wear masks, we don't have to have these screens up, where we don't have to do this, where people can start to feel more comfortable emotionally about it, so that the businesses and things could kind of go back to what we feel comfortable going back to.
You know, I really want to talk about here the vulnerable space. You made a great point, Anthony. I think you know, being vulnerable is a scary situation, right? Because when you're vulnerable, everything is kind of exposed, right, to yourself. Maybe the public may not see it, but you are very exposed to yourself as an individual and where you're at in life, right? And so for me, it has been a dark place for me recently, because I'm figuring out what's the next journey in my life. Like, where's the next steps I'm going to make moves at, because I can never stop. You know, if you as a business owner, you can never stop creating that wheel. You always got to keep moving forward. And I tell people all day long, if you got your health and your strength, keep pushing forward in the direction that you're comfortable with. Don't it's okay to step outside your box, but do something that you're comfortable with and go out there and go hard and aggressive with it. And don't listen to whatever people say, you know, because sometimes you share your ideas about what you want to do and what you want to become. And they're easily the worst criticism to criticize your dreams and step on your dreams. Sometimes you have to just kind of step out there on faith and move forward. Like my godmother said earlier, she said, nobody cares about waking up in the morning. They're going to wake up the next morning. It's a natural thing to wake up the next morning. So when you do in business or your personal life, you have to look at that same approach in life about just moving forward. And I think a lot of times people that's vulnerable, they lose their mind, or they don't know what the next step is. Take your career, take your job, and take it to the next level. If you got your own business, I'm comfortable talking about, if you got your own business, go in on it. Go forward, move as aggressively as the worst case scenario can happen is you lose everything, right? But if you lose everything, you can always rebuild. I rebuild 5 times.
That gives me anxiety just talking about that.
Well, the
I'm
thing
just
is,
not cut like that. I know you are, as an entrepreneur or whatever, but see, for me, part of my struggle with COVID and not knowing my next move, with my job and everything like that, for me, I was thinking, what am I going to do next? How am I going to do this? I like a plan in place. When I think about let me just step out and do this, I may lose it all, but how will I know? That freaks me out.
But that's the unknown part, right?
Yeah.
And so, Steve Harvey said a very, 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 very great comment. He says, you will never know what you're going to become until you want to jump off that ledge.
I remember when he said that, but he definitely said that while there was no pandemic.
Guess what?
He definitely said it while there was no pandemic.
But guess what? But
I get it. I get what he's trying to say.
It forced people to do that.
I was going to say, but I do feel like the pandemic kind of took the rug out of so many people, and they were kind of forced to take that leap.
They had to.
Because they had to.
They had to. I don't know a choice. And so sometimes our plans does never end out where we end up become. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if you ask me if I want to have kids before marriage, I would say hell no. But did it happen? Absolutely.
Right.
If I wanted my career to be in the water business, no. I never asked for none of this stuff. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't know what the hell I was going to do in life. But things just seem to fall in place over time. And as you progressively move forward, I only do things I'm passionate about. Forget the money. I don't mind taking that dice roll because life is not promised. I can go walk out here right now and have a crisis and be dead tomorrow. Boom, just like that. And nothing I can do, and I can control anything like that, right? Only thing I control is my captain of my ship. And if my ship is if it's sinking, I'm gonna do everything in my will to put that bucket out and empty that bucket out. I gotta readjust. I got to make changes in my life. I have a downsize. I got increase.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever those means are necessary, I'm a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
And being a survivor is being more than a conqueror. And so, you know, I'm a big advocate about, like, sometimes you got to take chances and take risks, and you have to be by yourself. When COVID first happened, I hired out. I went to my lake house for about 3 weeks. I was not coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I ain't coming out until the pandemic was over with. And then I had to realize that, you know what, Chad, you got to get back to work. You got to survive. You cannot let this pandemic get the best of you. So I had to go back to work and do what I do best to make a living for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to work, and the first thing I did during pandemic is I bought a food truck. Because I said, if I lose everything,
Mm-hmm.
I got a mobile food truck,
Mm-hmm.
ain't gonna make me some money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the moment I did that, I went to the dealership, and I was the first guy that bought from this dealership, this food truck. I paid with a credit card. I didn't have cash.
Mm-hmm.
I put $20,000 for this food, $20,000 for this food truck. And I opened my food truck within about a month of business, and I ran that business for a whole entire year during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I do that? Because I knew I had to survive. I had to make what I had to do, and I ain't need nobody telling me how to go make my money.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go do what I got to do. So for those who are skeptical, sometimes you just got to go in and go 100%. You can't be 1 foot in or 1 foot out. You got to be both feet in, and you got to go full-fledged with it
Mm-hmm.
if you want to be successful with it. You know, you can't play with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I become feeding my kids and my family, I can't play with that. So I had to go aggressively and go hard, and I had to let the hats land where the hats land. Because once I know I put 110% in, I can sleep well that I put 110% in. You know what I'm saying? Because I can only get 10% out if I only put 110% in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it doesn't mathematically work out, then that's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I need how to close down and have an exit strategy, right? And I had a plan B. If this food truck didn't work out, I was going to rent this food truck out. Because if in case scenario, if I didn't work well with the food, I can always rent out. Somebody
Right.
needs a food truck, right? Somebody needs to. And so that's the same thing with, like, back to planning. You have to have a strategy in place about what's A and what's B. But then A and B don't always work out. You may have a plan C. And if you don't have that in place, then, you know, you got to figure it out from that point. But at the end of the day, during pandemic, and for me at this point, is about recreating the real.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at people that has been around for 20, 30 years in the business or the music industry, they have recreated their will to be relevant in the industry, right? Be relevant in the business.
Yeah, because I mean, well, the thing is that now in this phase, because I know the initial phase of the pandemic, people were like, yo, you can't go outside. You can't do nothing. We don't care nothing about your own business. We don't care whether you have this. You can't go outside. Like some cities was like New York was crazy. Like, yo, you couldn't do nothing. They don't care nothing about your business. We care about this pandemic that's about to go on. And so even people with their ideas and their drive and all that stuff, you say, you're like, well, man, I can't even operate a business because the government is saying, no, you can't. The mayor is saying, no, you can't. We can't have this right now because we can't even control the spread, and you want to open your own business. That's why I saw, you know, throughout the country, a lot of small businesses got affected really bad because they're like, no, this is how it's already tough being a small business. Now you're going to put all these constructs in place that I cannot open, or I'll get fined, or I'm spreading this and I'll have things in place. So that's a tough thing.
That's a tough thing.
And
tough
so
situation.
you got to be like that. And these people they feed their families on that, let alone the people that were working for other companies
That's true.
that can no longer go to work. And they're like, well, man, I feed my family too. And you're just like, I can't do nothing. And so that starts to chip away, and you go, man, like, and that's why the government is like, well, if I'm going to put these restrictions on it, I still have to do my best to help you out with these loans or with these.
And
like
that was very helpful. And I'm going to be honest with you. And even though those companies that couldn't open their operation up, we have so many people that has tucked trades online, become ex-traders. And I remember the TradeX business went up really high because people couldn't go to work, right? You know what I'm saying? So we got to be creative within our own space.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I will say. You know, I don't have a solution for every situation, every state. Texas is one of the most flexible states that we never really close our doors.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we you know, the mayor
First
shut us down a
happened,
little
I
bit.
guess, but yeah, when it first happened for a little while, but not much.
Like the clubs
no,
be making
no.
hands over
Listen,
fists.
bruh, Atlanta was outside.
Out here.
Atlanta was outside. They said, what? Closed?
Closed.
Strip
I
club.
feel like
Let me
that's
tell you how
it
bad it
here,
was.
too.
Nah. It was bad when Lou Williams was in the bubble for NBA playoffs. He left the bubble to go to Magic City. He got caught in Magic City. Mind you, his team was in the playoffs. He said, I went to Magic City because they had good wings. You're an NBA player leaving the bubble. That's all their teams that are part of that play.
I sound like somebody I know.
I'm telling
James.
you, Atlanta was outside.
No
They was
respect.
like, we don't care nothing about it. And it was crazy.
Millions.
They was outside. Atlanta was fully open. When I first got there during pandemic, my boy was like, we go anywhere. I was like, yo, y'all not. He was like, no, we open. We outside.
Wow.
I said, bruh. So, I mean, they were fully outside. I know the mayor was like, nah. The mayor was fighting with the governor about like, hey, you're going to have to just take me to court because I'm going to put these restrictions in. But, you know, people, sometimes they just don't even care because it's not like the police were going to arrest you because you was outside. And they weren't really writing fines and really penalizing people for being open because I think the human element of it was like, I understand. You're going to have to just take me to jail.
So we got about 4 minutes left for the show end. So here's the solution. I'm gonna ask you guys a solution for the show. Is what do you feel the solution is that people that are having difficulties with relationships or difficulties in their career of the next step in career? Because a lot of people are dismantled, going through transition in life. Do anybody can comment on what you do? I know you, for example, you was fortunate enough through the pandemic to get a great job.
Yeah, my
What you love
dream
to do,
job,
right?
Actually, yeah, I landed.
So
my
how did that
dream job.
happen? And what
It
made
was a
you?
very roundabout. I actually interviewed for another position for which I felt like I was qualified for. It was a Zoom interview, very unconventional, not used to that at all. It was a Zoom interview, and I ended up somehow on the call with the vice president of the company. I mean, typically you don't interview with the vice president, you interview with someone from HR and maybe from a department. Somehow he ended up being on the call. He ended up being the only person on the call. The lady from HR didn't show up. There was a miscommunication about the interview time. So now it's just me and him. Very awkward, but it turned out to be the best 30-minute, 45-minute interview. He really gained my personality from that interview. We didn't talk about work hardly at all. And then he sent me an email shortly after that and said, you know, I don't think you're a good fit for what you interviewed for. I actually think you're a great fit for something else. And something that you told me while we were talking, I just think you'd be great for this. I think that, so we went a different avenue. He said, I'm going to email you this job description. You let me know. He sent me the job description and I was just blown away by it. Combined everything that we talked about on a personal level, nothing to do with the business level, but on a personal level is what we talked about. And it's funny because I think me being at home for so many months really kind of opened me up in the interview. We were talking like two people who were craving attention to talk,
Right.
social interaction.
Yeah.
We became friendly on that call, just talking about life and things like that. So for me, that's what happened. I just, a lot of good came from the pandemic for me, even though it didn't seem like it in the midst of it. So.
Okay. All right. What about you? We got like less than a minute left.
Oh, I mean, I think for me, it on a maturity level, and like there's certain levels you think you can even climb even further. It would, it's either going to break you or make you, and at times where it kind of break you. I mean, I've had moments where it broke me for a moment, and I've had to have a conversation with my father about it, and we talked about it, and it was just like he gets you on the same, he gets you back whole again, because sometimes you need that thing because you're a fighter, and sometimes even the greatest of fighters, they have coaches too.
Yeah.
And you get back, and you're like, okay, what's my next plan? Maybe I need to take a look at my skill set and go, you know what? Let me transition it over here to this different arena that I never thought about. So you explore all options, and then you just kind of you pick yourself back up and you kind of regroup again.
Well, I would say to add to both of you guys' points, I would say from a business perspective is just stay focused on your vision, stay focused on your goal, map it out what you want to do, and sometimes being alone is okay. I think some of the best ideas and the best businesses I've came up with is sometimes just being by yourself and moving quietly,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and seeking yourself, you know, and seeking who you are and what you want to do in life, and just go for it. You know, take that torch and run with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? The sky's the limit. If you got your health and your strength, God's given us the ability, the mind, our bodies to do and execute everything you said you can do. Be the best person you can be. Move forward. If you fail, pick back up and do it over again. Move forward to the next idea. There's nothing wrong with failure. You cannot be a great winner until you become a failure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's my
No,
coach
yeah,
always
you have
told
to.
me.
Yeah, if you haven't
You know.
failed at anything, you ain't.
You're not
You-
successful
Yeah,
on any level.
Nope.
That's right. That's right. And the last one I want to say is look at your friends. Your friends, and Joe Osteen told me this a long time ago. If you want to see where you're going to be at in life, look at your friends. You want to see where you're going to be at 5 years from now, look at your friends. If your friends doesn't reflect where you want to be at in life, then it's time to move along. Okay? That's the end of my episode. Guys, check us out next week. Each and every week we have a new episode. Stay tuned. Follow us on YouTube, Chad Cossey Show. Follow me on Instagram, Chad Cossey 962, and also his Facebook. We're on TikTok, Chad Cossey. Check me out. We're going to continue doing this. I want you guys on my show. If you have a good topic, I want you here on the show. Talk to you later. Be safe.